My name is Emily. I study at the University of Oregon, and just a few weeks ago, I moved into a small apartment by myself in the city of Eugene. It's in the older part of town, quiet streets, tall trees, and buildings that look like they've been standing for decades. At night, it's so still that even the sound of your own footsteps feels loud. The apartment was cheap and honestly the only thing I could afford, but I wasn't used to living alone, so the first few days felt heavy. But the real story began the night I realized something wasn't quite right with this place. Thought it was around 1 a.m. I was sitting at my desk studying, the room dimly lit by a small desk lamp. Everything outside was silent. Too silent. The window was shut, the curtain half drawn, but something kept pulling my attention toward it. Like someone was standing out there, watching me. At first, I told myself I was just tired and imagining things. But this feeling was different. It wasn't just in my head, my heartbeat had picked up, and my chest felt tight. I turned off the desk lamp so I could see outside better, then slowly pulled the curtain aside. And that's when I swear I saw a shadow move, like someone suddenly stepped away from the window. The movement was so sharp and real that I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and looked out. Nothing. The street was empty. No one was there. Just darkness and the rustling of leaves. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just stressed or exhausted. But deep down, something told me this wasn't just in my head. The next day, I called my old roommate, Julie, and told her what happened. She laughed and said, "Emily, Eugene has always had creepy vibes. Don't overthink it." I tried to brush it off too. But something had shifted after that night. I no longer felt like I was alone in that apartment, even when no one else was around. The second night, something weird happened again. Around 2 a.m., I heard a soft tapping sound, like a pebble hitting the window. I froze for a bit, then slowly pulled back the curtain. Again, nothing, just that same darkness. No shadow, no movement. I couldn't tell if someone was messing with me, or if I was just scaring myself. I checked the door, made sure it was locked, turned on all the lights in the room, and laid back down. But sleep didn't come easy that night. What happened next completely shook me. On the third night, I suddenly woke up. I don't know why, but I had this deep, uneasy feeling in my chest. I was lying still on my bed, staring at the ceiling, and then my eyes drifted toward the window. There behind the curtain was a shape. A faint silhouette. Like someone was standing right up against the glass, watching me. I couldn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just froze. Then I screamed, jumped out of bed, and turned the lights on. But there was no one there. No shadow. No noise. Just me, alone, with my heart pounding out of my chest. That was it for me. The next morning, I called the police. They came out, searched the apartment building, checked every floor. But they didn't find anything. No suspicious activity, no clues. They told me to install a security camera near the window. Seemed like a reasonable suggestion. But the fear didn't go away, so I took my old phone, set it up on a tripod, and pointed it at the window. Every night before bed, I'd hit record. Every morning, I'd check the footage, hoping and dreading that something would be there. At first, there was nothing unusual. But that fear had taken root inside me. I couldn't sleep. Every tiny sound woke me up. Every creak of the door, every whir of the fan started to feel like a warning. Like the house was trying to tell me something. And I just didn't know what yet. Some nights, I would lie awake just waiting for something to happen. And even when nothing did, it still felt like something had. Like a presence had been in the room and left its shadow behind. The scariest part? I couldn't even bring myself to look at the window anymore. It felt like something was always waiting behind that curtain, something that only showed itself when I was alone. And when the lights were off, I kept telling myself it was stress, or the pressure of living alone for the first time. Maybe I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew something was there, someone, and I could feel them watching me closely, silently, every night. Every second. Now that I had the camera running every night, I waited, almost dreaded, what it might capture. As crazy as it sounds, I was more afraid of proof than of not knowing. The next morning, like I did every day, I checked the recording first thing after waking up. The first couple hours were uneventful, just darkness, a few flickering tree shadows outside the window. But at exactly 2:47 a.m., something moved on the screen. And then, suddenly, there he was, a man, wearing a hoodie, hunched slightly toward my window, looking straight in, my breath caught in my chest. He wasn't just standing there. He was staring. He didn't move for 10 full minutes. 10 minutes of stillness like a statue. Just those dark eyes fixed on the glass. A few times he tilted his head like he was studying me, watching everything I did. There was no sound in the video, but I could feel the silence, like the kind of silence that presses against your skin. I couldn't make out his face. The streetlight behind him cast just enough of a glow to outline his shape, but not his features. Still, his presence was undeniable. And at one point it looked like he turned his head toward the camera, like he knew I was watching. That broke me. This wasn't a nightmare. I had the footage. It was real. And the fear? It felt more solid than ever. I called the police immediately. When they saw the footage, they got serious. But since the guy's face wasn't visible, they couldn't ID him. They said they'd increase patrols around the building and suggested more security, but that didn't do much to calm me. I started locking everything twice, pulling my curtains tight every night, and moving my bed so it didn't face the window anymore. Every little creak made my heart race. I couldn't shake the thought that he'd be back, and maybe next time. He wouldn't stay on the outside. One day, I spoke to an older woman who lived on the ground floor. She told me that years ago, someone had reported a man standing outside the building, watching women through their windows. The police had been involved, but nothing came of it. The guy was never caught. Her words sent a chill down my spine. Could it be the same man? Had he come back? After all these years? The nights got worse. Every little noise, wind against the window, the neighbor's TV, the old building creaking, everything started to feel like a warning. I was just one girl, in one small room, and the walls around me felt like they were closing in. Then one night, something happened that I'll never forget. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up. I didn't know why, but I immediately felt like someone was standing on the other side of my apartment door. And then I heard it, a whisper. So faint, it could have been my own breath. But it wasn't. Someone was whispering, right outside the door. I couldn't make out the words. It was like they were breathing something out between the syllables, just low enough to make me lean in. I slowly got out of bed, tiptoed to the door, and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. But when I looked down, I saw it, a shadow sliding across the floor under the door. Slow, close, too close. I stepped back without a sound, crawled into bed, and pulled the blanket over my head like a child. I stayed that way, frozen, eyes wide open, heart thudding in my ears. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I made the decision. I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed up and left. Found a new place, a new neighborhood. But peace never really followed me. The fear didn't belong to that apartment anymore. It belonged to me. It followed me. Even now, when I wake up at night, I can't look at the window. Sometimes I swear I see a shape just behind the curtain. And sometimes, just sometimes, I still feel like someone is out there, just standing, watching, and waiting. Maybe the story ends here. But those eyes, those ones I never saw, I still feel them. Behind every window. My name is Marcus. Not too long ago, my wife Allison and I bought a 2-story house in a quiet, older neighborhood in New Haven, Connecticut. We moved in with our 3-year-old daughter, Sophie. The house was charming red brick walls, a small front lawn, and a large backyard bordered by shrubs and thin trees. But something about that backyard always felt off to me. The fence didn't fully close it off, and at the far end, it just faded into what looked like the start of some overgrown woods. It felt unfinished, like the land didn't want to be part of the neighborhood anymore. For the first 2 weeks, things were fine. We were settling in, decorating Sophie's room, repainting old furniture. Life felt normal. But one night changed everything. It was around 1:30 a.m., and I was just getting ready for bed. That's when I heard something strange on the baby monitor in Sophie's room. Usually we'd just hear her soft breathing or maybe the music box playing, but this time there was something else. A low whisper. It wasn't clear, like someone was trying to call her name, but so faint I couldn't make it out. I stared at the screen. For a moment, I thought I saw a shadow move, but not clearly enough to tell what it was. I figured maybe it was static or interference, maybe the monitor wires were loose. But the way my chest tightened, it wasn't because of some technical glitch. That chill I felt was real. I woke Allison and told her. She brushed it off, saying, "I was overworked and tired." "Marcus, it's an old monitor," she said. "Could be anything." Maybe she was right. Still, I double-checked the monitor settings and stayed alert through the night. But the next night, things got worse. This time, Sophie rolled over in her sleep and mumbled, "No, I don't want to play outside ... And right after that, I heard that same whisper again through the monitor. "Come out. Let's play." There was something off about that voice. It was human, but barely. Like someone pretending to sound like a child and failing. It made my stomach drop. That's when Sophie started acting differently. During the day, she'd stand by the back door and say, "My friend's out there. I want to go outside." We'd ask who she was talking about, but she never gave a name. She'd just point toward the bushes and smile. And something about that smile, it didn't feel innocent anymore. Allison still believed it was just Sophie's imagination. But I had a gut feeling that something near those bushes wasn't right. One afternoon, I checked the backyard myself. Nothing looked out of place, but every time I got close to the shrubs, I had the creepy sensation that I was being watched. The silence back there felt too heavy, too still. So I made a choice. I moved the baby monitor into my home office, where I could listen to it more closely at night. On the third night, I went one step further. I installed an old security camera on the window facing the backyard. It was motion triggered and would automatically start recording if anything moved. I needed answers. If something or someone was out there, I wanted to see it. That night felt long. I didn't tell Allison what I was doing. Sophie was asleep. The monitor picked up her steady breathing, and I kept checking the camera feed every few minutes. Nothing unusual happened that night, but the next morning, the footage left me cold. Around 2:18 a.m., there was slight motion on the screen, a blurry shift. Then, a shadow started forming near the bushes. Slowly, a man emerged from the shrubs, but he never fully stepped out. He just crouched a little in the darkness, staring up at Sophie's window. I couldn't make out his clothes clearly, but it looked like he was wearing a hoodie. The night vision made his eyes shine unnaturally. And then he moved his head and said something. The camera picked up faint audio. "Come out, let's play." He stood there for almost a minute. Then suddenly, the screen went blurry again, and he was gone. I just sat there staring at the footage, frozen. This wasn't my imagination. This was real. Someone had been in our backyard, watching my daughter's window in the middle of the night. I didn't even tell Allison. I just picked up the phone and called the police. What happened next was even more disturbing. The following morning, I really didn't want to check the footage from the night before, but the fear and curiosity inside me wouldn't let it go. I scrubbed through the video, and when the timestamp hit 2:13 a.m., My fingers froze on the screen. The camera showed a middle-aged man slowly crawling out from behind the bushes in our backyard. The way he moved didn't look normal. He was hunched over, creeping like a child playing hide and seek. Then he dropped to his knees right in front of Sophie's bedroom window. He wasn't doing anything, just staring silently at the glass. And then, through the camera's audio, I heard the voice that chilled me to my bones. "Come out. Let's play. I have a game for you." The voice sounded soft and childlike, but his body and movement clearly showed he was a grown man, at least in his 50s, and the fact that he was back there, that late at night, calling out to my daughter from the bushes. It made my blood run cold. I woke Allison immediately and showed her the video. Moments later, we had Sophie in our arms, locking every door inside the house. Allison was shaking. Sophie was still asleep, but we were both terrified. I called the police right away. They showed up faster than I expected and searched the backyard thoroughly, even going deep into the brush. But the man was gone. It was like he had vanished into thin air. That night felt endless. Allison and I took turns staying awake. We had Sophie sleep between us, double-checked all the locks, and made sure every window was secure. The next morning, the police came back and did a more thorough daytime sweep of the backyard. One of the officers eventually called us over to show what they had found, and it made my stomach turn. There were small footprints in the grass barefoot, but strangely misshapen, like whoever left them had been crawling on their knees or walking in some unnatural posture. Nearby, they found a broken wooden toy car with faded red stripes and a burnt-out lighter with a half-erased sticker on it. The writing was so worn down, it couldn't be read. The police said the items could be decades old, possibly dragged out from the woods behind the property. But they found no ID, no fingerprints, and nothing in the system that could identify the man. Sophie started acting differently too. She would wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes we'd hear her mumbling in her sleep. He said, "He'll come back when you're asleep." That line echoed in my head constantly. Allison kept Sophie's curtains closed from then on, and we removed the baby monitor. We now stayed close to her every night. Maybe we were being overprotective, but honestly, no level of caution felt like enough anymore. A few days later, I started talking to neighbors. One older man, Mr. Harris, who lived behind our house, told me that back in the 90s, there was a rumor about someone mentally unstable living in the woods near our street. He said people used to hear children laughing or whispering behind their homes at night. Some parents claimed their kids mentioned a shadow man they'd see out near the trees. The police were called back then too, but nothing ever came of it. No one was ever caught. And nothing like that had happened again. Until now. Since then, I've been checking the backyard camera every single night. Some nights, there's nothing. But other times, the camera will randomly cut out, or there'll be a strange black blur for a few seconds. Sometimes the bushes will sway, even when there's no wind. Or I'll catch a faint shadow darting between the trees. The police tell me it could just be an animal, but animals don't whisper, "Let's play," in a child's voice. Now, Sophie refuses to go near the backyard. Even Allison admits the space feels off, like someone's watching us. And me? Every night, before I turn the lights off, I find myself looking out that same window, and sometimes, very faintly, I swear I hear a whisper coming from the bushes, "Let's play again." And it's not just Sophie he's talking to anymore. I think he wants to play with me now too. And this time, he might not wait for us to fall asleep. This time, he might come right up to the door. I'm Logan, 28 years old, a long-haul truck driver, and what I'm about to share still sticks with me like it happened last night. I've been driving trucks for 5 years now, and I've seen all kinds of highways, empty stretches, late night, drowsiness, and that weird silence that sometimes feels heavier than noise. This story happened during one of my overnight runs from Dallas to Albuquerque, an 11-hour drive. Everything was going fine until I reached near Amarillo, Texas around 3 a.m. That stretch of highway is completely deserted, pitch dark, and eerily still. The only light came from my truck's headlights cutting through the night. But then, something happened that changed my usual route into something I'll never forget. That it was around 3:10 a.m. when I first noticed it. In the edge of my headlights, I saw something or someone standing off to the side of the highway. A man, just standing there. Not waving, not moving, just staring directly at my truck. I was going about 55 miles per hour, but the second I made eye contact with him, a chill shot down my spine. I couldn't see his face clearly, but something about his presence just didn't feel right. I thought maybe he was a stranded traveler who needed help, but deep down, something told me to keep driving. I slowed down a bit out of instinct, but right as I got closer, my truck's headlights started flickering. Just for a couple of seconds. Still, on a highway that empty, it felt straight out of a horror movie. My truck had never done that before. Everything was in perfect condition. I glanced back to the spot where I saw the guy, but he was gone, just like that. I figured maybe. I imagined it. But what happened next made it clear. This wasn't my imagination. Just as I passed that spot, I heard 2 loud bangs on the back of my truck, like someone had smacked the trailer hard with both hands. It was so loud I flinched. One immediately pulled over, switched on the emergency lights, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out. Everything around me was dead silent. I walked around the truck, checking every door, every corner. Nobody, no one there. Not a sound, not even the wind. It was as if the whole night had stopped up. My heart was racing. I got back into the cab, locked the doors, took a deep breath, and checked the GPS. The next exit was still 6 miles away. I just wanted to make it to a rest area as fast as I could. But then something happened that nearly made me freeze behind the wheel. As I started driving again and picked up speed, I instinctively glanced at my side mirror, then the rearview mirror, and that's when I saw him, that same man. He was running behind my truck full speed, no vehicle, no light. Just a man in the pitch black, sprinting after me. His face was still blank, emotionless. His body looked a little blurry, like a shadow, but the motion his running was crystal clear. I held my breath. There's no way this was real. I was doing highway speeds, and this man was just chasing me. My palms were soaked with sweat, and I was about to hit the brakes, but the second I even thought about it, he vanished, just gone, nowhere in the mirrors. Like he was never there. I didn't stop the truck. I just kept going. All I could think about was getting to somewhere with light, with people. But even as I kept driving, I couldn't shake. The image of those eyes, cold, unblinking, staring straight at me. That's when I realized some people don't stand by the road for help. Some just want to be seen. To remind you that you're never really alone. Even on the loneliest roads. I pushed my truck faster than I ever had before. My heart was pounding, and I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, terrified I'd see him again. When the GPS finally showed the exit, I swerved off immediately. There was a small beat-up rest stop, cracked benches, an old restroom shed, and one streetlight that flickered like it was about to die. I slammed the brakes, parked, and just sat there, trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking, my forehead dripping with sweat, and only one question kept circling my mind. What the hell did I just see? A little while later, I called the non-emergency police number. My voice clearly gave away how shaken I was, but I explained everything in order: how I saw a man standing on the side of the highway, then the loud bangs on the back of my truck, and then how he was running after me. The officer on the line said they'd send a unit out, but honestly, I could hear it in his voice. He didn't fully believe me. Calmly, he said, "Sir, you've been driving long hours. Sometimes fatigue on the road can cause hallucinations." I didn't argue. I just went quiet. I knew right then they weren't going to take this seriously. But what I saw, that wasn't a dream. That wasn't just exhaustion. About 15 minutes later, a police SUV pulled up. 2 officers got out. One tried to keep me calm. The other walked around my truck with a flashlight. They looked for footprints. Nothing. No signal. One of them suggested it could have been an animal or shadows from trees playing tricks on me. I just stood there, listening. But inside, I knew what I experienced didn't fit into any simple explanation. It all felt off, unnatural, wrong in a way I couldn't explain. After they left, I climbed back into my truck and decided to check the surveillance footage. I've got 3 cameras on my truck front, side, and rear. I went straight to the time when I saw the man running behind me, but the rear camera? It had gone completely black between 3:13 a.m. and 3:16 a.m. Just a blank screen. No motion, no image, nothing. That's never happened before. The entire day's footage was fine, except for those 3 minutes. The same 3 minutes I know he was there. That's when I stopped thinking this was just a man. After that night, I couldn't sleep for days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Those eyes, the stillness, the shadow. And the worst part was getting back in the truck. Every time I was on a lonely highway, I'd feel like he was there again, standing by the side of the road. Starin. Sometimes I thought I saw him running in my mirror. But when I looked again, there was nothing. A few weeks later, I talked to an older driver, someone who'd been in the business for decades. When I told him where it happened, near Amarillo, he looked serious and said, "You saw the desert shadow, maybe. People see him, but nobody talks about it out loud." He told me there've been reports like this for years in that area, a ghost hitchhiker that people spot standing by the road. And then suddenly he's running behind their vehicle. Always in the mirror, never from the front. Another driver I met later said he lost his brakes on that same stretch of road and saw a man chasing his truck in the mirror. His rear camera also went black. Now, whether it was a ghost, a hallucination, or something else entirely, I still don't know. But I still drive trucks. It's my job, my livelihood. But ever since that night, whenever I pass Amarillo, I tie a black cloth over my rearview mirror. My wife Allison laughs when I tell her about it, but I don't care. Because sometimes, when the night is deep and the highway is silent, and my headlights cut through the dark in 2 lonely beams, I feel like someone's watching from behind that cloth. Maybe even still running, waiting for me to look again. So that was our set of 3 true and terrifying stories tonight. Stories that remind us how that fear of someone outside is more than just a phrase. It's a feeling, a tension that creeps into our homes, hides behind the curtains, or follows us on empty roads. If these stories gave you chills and left you thinking twice before looking out your window tonight, be sure to subscribe to Chilling Talks. We bring you true horror stories that make you think twice about noises in the dark, shadows at your door, and things you might see when you're all alone. Hit like, leave a comment telling us which of the 3 stories scared you the most. And share this with someone who thinks fear only exists in movies. Until the next nightmare, keep your windows shut, because someone out there might already be watching.